Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the video. Welcome to my garage. In this video, I'm going to make Mauler here a roller. You just saw me carry most of his components up from the basement. They're actually laying right behind the camera there. I want to bolt all that stuff on, make him a roller. Once I have everything on, I'm going to take the build platform out from underneath him. Now that I've got the front end on, I shouldn't need that anymore. So I'll get that out of there. Then he'll actually be a roller. At that point, then I need to take the engine and the transaxle out really before I go any further on the chassis, because I'm not 100% sure I left myself enough room to get that stuff out. Because if you remember, I kind of put those in position and then I built the chassis around it, and my rear engine cage is not removable. I think I left myself enough room, but before I really start going crazy welding things up, I want to make sure that that stuff comes out. So let me take the camera, show you a couple things that I've done since the last video, just so that everybody's up to speed, and then I'll start slapping parts on here so we can get them off of the build chassis. So since the last video, I've done a lot of work on the front of the chassis. I built all of these bars. I built the whole front section, very, very similar to Mauler. Most of the dimensions are exactly the same. He's still going to have all sorts of room up front here. I took this front end is the same front end. I mean, I cut this front end off of Mauler's old chassis. I knew I was going to reuse it because I was real happy with all of this part of the front end. And then you can see what I did here. This is where I had cut it. So I just took these pieces, coped them, cut these to the length that I needed to get this pushed forward, as you know, to get it in position. And then there's pieces of tube running through here with rosette welds to strengthen all this. So this just all needs to be welded there. Did the same thing there. Did the same thing here with these short little pieces. And then they tie into the front of the chassis just like on ratchet. Now then another thing I started working on was the doors. They are not done, but I made some progress. So they are hinged, they are cut. Oop. Obviously they don't have all of this up here, but they've got this, so I'll be able to get my mirror cages on there, and I actually think that looks pretty good. The way that I have this door is just a skin. Originally I had it with the frame. That frame did not have any strength. It was just flapping in the wind. And I'm really happy with the way this turned out with this tube here. So I really don't mind that this is exposed. I actually think that's kind of nice. Anyways, I also added some fiberglass in here to give the door some strength, because before, when it was just metal, it didn't have any rigidity to it. I have added in a couple of pieces of wood, but I'm not done yet. When I am done, these will be wrapped in fiberglass, so it won't just be wood. But there's still more structure that needs to be added in here. And the biggest thing, the next thing I need to do on this is I need to figure out what I'm gonna do for latches. So this is still a work in progress, but it does have, these are the factory hinges. So when the door is closed, the hinges stick out there just like they do on a real bug. So this part looks very authentic. However, when you actually look at the hinge, it came to here, I cut it there, and then I welded these pieces on so that this gives the fiberglass, or the steel fiberglass door, something nice and solid to weld to. That's bolted on there, and then the hinge itself actually has a tab that is welded to the chassis. So you can actually unbolt the hinge, take the hinge off if you need to. I thought that'd give, you know, a person a little bit of flexibility if they needed to replace the hinge. It also gives you a little bit of adjustment. You can actually move this around a little bit, just like on a real Volkswagen. So I thought that gave it a little bit of that factory look, but also gives you some adjustability. And the factory hinges are really strong, so I think that'll work out pretty well. The other thing I did back here, I think it'll be easier to show you from the other side. I had the tabs for the lower control arm. That was all done, but I didn't have this top structure for this link in place yet. So I made this piece, runs across. Let me get a better angle here. All right, so that piece there runs across, goes right over the transaxle, and then it's got these plates here that the upper link connects to. And what I liked about this is I made it unboltable so that you can actually change the geometry of where this upper link connects. And for those of you long timers, if you remember on the original Mauler chassis, this upper link just connected to one tab that was just welded to a 1-inch tube. So it was really a very weak point, and it was fixed. There wasn't any adjustability here. So just like how I've got the upper tabs that are unboltable so you can make changes, I wanted to do that to the upper link placement as well. So I got that in place. It's pretty stout. It's obviously not as strong as the way I did ratchet, but this chassis is not meant to be as strong as ratchet. So there's a couple things that I've compromised which aren't as strong, but should be a little bit lighter and a little bit easier to work with. All right, so now Mauler is a roller. That's super duper cool. But the whole reason of this video is so that I can see if I've left myself enough clearance to get the engine out. So I've got him all set up here. I've got a little hoist set up here. And if you look, I've got the front end jacked way up. I got a little scissor jack in there, picking the front end way up, because what's gonna happen when I do this, the engine on Mauler and on ratchet is installed at like 10 degrees. So that means it's hard to just separate them if the vehicle's sitting straight, because it's actually sitting at 10 degrees. So you kind of gotta go like that. So what I've tried to do usually is I'll take the front and I'll jack it up as high as I can. So if you look right now, the engine and the transaxle are actually pretty level, and it looks like when I unbolt this, it should come straight back. But actually what's gonna happen is when I start taking a bunch of this engine weight, the rear end is gonna come way up. And so I just need to find out if it's gonna come up too high or if it's gonna come up enough and I can still separate that. All right, so I got the engine out of there. It was snug. There was about an inch of free play, which is kind of tight, but you know, I measured it. I measured that I needed like 5.5 inches, and I gave myself like 6.5, so I knew it was going to be tight. Little dicey here with the studs and the input shaft. You don't want to damage anything there, but I was able to get it back, slide the chassis forward, and then get the engine up out of there, so I'm happy with that. That all works. Now for the transaxle here, I've got to take these two bolts out. The two lower bolts are integrated into the engine bolts, so they're already taken out. There's one bolt at the very back that I have to take out, and then this should, hopefully, I mean, it's kind of snug with this crossbar, but I'm pretty sure it'll slide right out of there, but I'm going to find out right now. Okay. Oh. All right. That's it for this video, guys. Got the engine, well, actually got Mauler as a roller, got the engine out, got the transaxle out. There is clearance for the engine. It's tight. You got about an inch to work with, but when I measured all this up, I measured the studs coming off the back of the engine, and I really gave myself about an inch. So I knew it was going to be snug. I don't like the rear cages to hang off a lot. I know a lot of people do that for like kind of like a crush zone, but I don't know, on a smaller build like this, well, I did it on ratchet too. I like when the cage is kind of as snug as it can be to the engine. So I think I gave myself like 5.5 inches, and it required like 4.5, so it was gonna be snug. But it's all right. You back it up. You just gotta be a little bit careful not to bang the studs around on anything. Get it out of there. The transaxle's a little bit snug, but you know, when you have H-arm or A-arm rear suspension, the area around the transaxle gets really congested because you've got the lower control arms coming in, you got the upper links coming in there, and you got a brace across that. So it really, the design gets a little tricky around the transaxle. So I knew that was going to be a little bit snug. But it's not bad. I mean, it's a small transaxle. Like, it's a project on ratchet because his transaxle's like 200 pounds. This Volkswagen Type 2, you saw me just pick it up. You just kind of have to hop it. You got to turn it a little bit to get around some of the motor mount brackets, but it's not bad. The starter's a little bit tight, but you know, if you're out in the field, you might have to pop the upper link to get yourself a little clearance, but that's no big deal. All right, so now that I'm verified all that stuff is good, I'm probably going to go at this with a welder, do a bunch of welding, because right now a lot of the body structure is all just tacked on. It's kind of weak. And then I got to finish up those doors. The doors are such a pain in the butt. So I got to finish those up and then move on to other things. So thanks for watching the video, guys. I appreciate the support. I hope it's helping you with any projects you're working on, maybe entertaining you. I don't know. And I hope to see you on the next video. Take care.